In today's episode, we take a look at how an intruder could have entered the Ramsey's house that Christmas night and abducted JonBenet from her bed, took her to the basement, and garroted her and fractured her skull. So what's next in this video is a step-by-step of what happened. Not what the plan was, but what actually took place. The intruder that killed JonBenet had to know a little bit about the outside, this grating, and the window well that led into the basement. And he most likely had to be a fairly young man to fit through the window well and open this window and head into the basement that night. After entering the house, the intruder hid in the basement, which wasn't that difficult because it was pretty messy down there. While the intruder was down in the basement, he found the suitcase, he saw Patsy's painting supplies, and he found the door to the wine cellar. The intruder felt comfortable that John, Patsy, and Burke and JonBenet were fast asleep, and so he went upstairs to the kitchen and he wrote the ransom note because he planned to kidnap JonBenet, but he had other thoughts running through his mind. And so he wrote the 2.5-page ransom note right in the kitchen. The intruder had to know some details about John Ramsey's life. For example, that he had a daughter. And yet he didn't have to know her name because the name JonBenet is not in the ransom note. He had to know John Ramsey had his own business because that's mentioned in the ransom note. He chose $118,000, maybe to get some quick money. He had to know the word attaché and how to spell the word attaché. He used some harsh words like beheaded and she dies, she dies, she dies. He most likely knew John on a first-name basis. That or he just knew the homeowner was John. He also knew that John was wealthy because he called him a fat cat. And the biggest clue in the ransom note is Southern, because he knew a little bit about John, that he had moved from Atlanta to Boulder. Yet he didn't know a lot about John because he was born in Nebraska and grew up in Michigan, so he was not a Southerner. After the ransom note was placed on the spiral stairs, the intruder went upstairs to the second floor to abduct JonBenet and then take her down to the basement to tie her up. But something must have happened. When he got downstairs with JonBenet, he placed the duct tape on her mouth and tied her wrists with this white nylon cord that he brought with him, and prepared to place her in the suitcase to remove her from the house. And at this point, JonBenet must have woke up and fought her or attacked her, and she screamed, and she was hit on the head with some metal object, or she was strangled. So the intruder attacker decided to torture her and abuse her and molest her and ultimately killed her. After JonBenet was dead, he decided to wrap her body in the white blanket and put her in the wine cellar. As the intruder rushed out of the Ramsey's basement, he left this big scuff mark with his shoe, and he must have stepped on a small piece of glass because there was a little piece of glass on top of the suitcase. And he closed the window behind him, and he closed the grating behind him, and went out to the alley, never to be heard from again. Brian Scott was a landscaper who worked for the Ramsey family in Boulder, Colorado, and is sometimes discussed in connection with the unsolved 1996 murder of JonBenet Ramsey. His name has surfaced in public discussion, particularly in true crime forums, due to his familiarity with the family and some alleged comments he made. He was not a public figure and was not formally named a suspect by police. JonBenet would attach an exercise device to her ankle, and then, as it rotated several inches off the ground parallel to it, she would hop with the other leg over the cord as it swung by. She kept this up for long periods on the back patio, and she was very good at it. It was kind of a cool thing, demanded good reflexes and coordination. I even thought of getting one myself. I figured her leg work was for the pageants. I could see the muscles becoming defined in her calves. I'd made a similar assumption when I saw her practicing the violin. I knew the competitions took a lot of preparation, but I never once saw her in makeup or costumes. Never spotted her wearing anything but jumpers or jeans, or shorts and t-shirts. The night that JonBenet disappeared, Scott's alibi was that he had spent Christmas evening at the apartment of Ann Preston, his girlfriend at the time. Scott recounted to detectives that he had stayed at her place from 10:30 to roughly midnight before going home. 2 weeks later, Detective Harmer spoke to Scott's girlfriend, Ann Preston, to reconfirm when Scott had left her place on Christmas night. She said it was around 12:30 a.m. Scott's saliva, hair, handwriting samples would have to be analyzed before he was cleared. Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved, and I'll see you tomorrow night with the Zodiac Killer case.